This is the WHO healthy workplace model. Okay. In the center there is a white space with ethics and values written. But in the red circle there are two things. But one is at the top, other is at the bottom. I've always wondered why leadership engagement is at the top and worker involvement is at the bottom. Isn't it ironical, paradoxical? Can you make any change in an organization with only leadership engagement at the top? Can you do it? No or yes? No. So, which should be at the top? Worker involvement or leadership engagement? What is your view? How many for leadership engagement at the top? How many raise your hands? Okay. And how many with worker involvement at the top? Please raise your hands. Please raise your hands. Worker involvement at the top. So there are more hands for worker involvement. Who is at the focus of an organization? Worker or leader? Leader. Worker. Who is at the focus in your college? The student or the teacher? Student is at the focus. Teachers survive because there are students. No education is complete without the students. So, healthy workplaces cannot be thought of without engaging employees, and if it is employees, unions will follow, because unions are the collective voice of individual workers or employees or students. Don't you have students union in RAK college? Yes. President, secretary, joint secretary, and the students who become office bearers, they know their responsibility. If somebody is president of students union, she knows what it means to be winning the trust of all the students of the college. So unions are also to be involved if at all you want workplace health programs to be actually implemented, not theoretically implemented, because you want the change to happen on the ground. Everything else around the circle, those blue, dark blue circles or dark blue, light blue circles are peripheral. The center is ethics and value. That's why I asked you the question, religion. What faith she followed? She remained a Sikh, yet she adopted Christian religion. That does not mean that she did not remain a Sikh. Alright? So ethics and values are the center core of healthy workplace WHO model. And over that, the second circle, the red, at the center are the two complementary areas of leadership engagement and worker involvement. So I am going to discuss this issue at length. This again, I've enlarged what is there in the backdrop of today's conference. You find the same concept being there on the screen in front of you, where these rectangular boxes, they have written certain words. They are not theoretical words. These are the most practical works if you have to do any work in your life. That is, assemble, assess, prioritize, plan, do, evaluate, improve, and mobilize. and they are connected with an arrow which is clockwise. It is not going anti-clockwise, it is going clockwise. And the clock goes, so it's a question of time, starting with 12 noon, mobilize, assemble, assess, prioritize, plan, do, evaluate, and improve, and do again. Alright? So this is a continuous process with worker involvement and leadership engagement together, working in ethical manner and having the core values of your organization and your life together, contributing towards healthy workplace, continual improvement process. Alright? There is a lady doing pranayam in the garden. Is relaxation the end of life, or the process of relaxation equally important? Or where you do pranayam is not equally important? The process is very important. The participatory process that engages workers themselves is very important. By being invited into the process can be part of the solution. And that is why this is the key for success. Over here at the top, there is a visual. Two ladies, one lady at the top having a laptop, and one lady on the right standing, but somebody having a lens is a gentleman, a man. So all together have to work to make policies. One of the most consistent findings of effectiveness research, there is a subject of research known as effectiveness research. You do research as to what is effective and what is not effective. And one of the most consistent findings you always find is that for successful programs, the workers affected by the program and their representatives must, remember, I'm writing must, and this is not my word. This is research is finding, this is an evidence. Must be involved in a meaningful way in every step of the process, from planning to implementation, and people often forget evaluation. If the teachers have to be evaluated, only then by the students have to evaluate the teachers, only then good teachers, good real teachers will be discovered. Similarly, in healthy workplace model, workers need to be involved from planning to implementation and evaluation. There's a visual. Water, food, so essential for life. Workers and their representatives must not simply be consulted or informed, which often happens in organizations. They are consulted, the decision has been taken, or they are informed, meaning this is what you have to do from tomorrow. So these workers and representatives must not simply be consulted or informed of what is happening, but must be actively involved. Their opinions and ideas sought out. but more important is this phrase, listen to. If you don't listen, you are going to make blunders. And also the last phase, implementation. So seek ideas and opinions, listen to the people who are going to be affected, and involve them in the implementation. Only then you can hope a tangible, long-term change in organizations shall happen. A gentleman doing the jogging but listening to music in the morning or in the evening. In many situations, achieving the appropriate input from workers may require workers having a collective voice through a trade union or other system of worker representation. So, seek opinion, involve the leaders who are elected democratically by your organization, workers. A gentleman being congratulated by a woman. Woman says, congratulations. The gentleman says, you performed well too. The prize is gone to a man, but the man is ascribing the success to the woman. That's the hallmark of success. Don't own up your achievements. If you share your successes, that's the real success. Knall, Dobson and Roscom, these are three scientists. They were reviewing successful workplace interventions. They concluded, they stated unequivocally. Why? Unequivocally, because the evidence that is their research, joint research, showed that strong collective voice is the singularly most important element found among all of the various interventions described. So, develop strong collective voice. That means you've got to nurture the unions in a positive manner, because only then the right kind of voice will come forward. And mind you, I'll give you all the references at the end for all the statements made in this oration. So it is not my opinion, it is science of occupational medicine speaking here throughout each slide that you are seeing over here. To date, till today, few work organization change initiatives have succeeded in the absence of strong collective voice. A fact. People don't understand the magic of strong collective voice. The term worker empowerment is sometimes used, though this can be misconstrued to mean a shifting of responsibility to workers without concomitant authority, which is a recipe for disaster. You have to actually show that you mean business. Don't use workers as the tool or the shield to protect yourself. You have to give authority also. One of the basic principles of action research is the active participation of those who will be affected by the changes. And this is so important that you mean business. When you mean business, you show that you mean business. What is your business? In HR, the business is to develop the full potential of human resource. If you mean business, you should ensure that you actually empower the workers. Due to the power imbalance that exists in most workplaces between labor and management, it is critical that workers have a voice that is stronger than that of the individual worker. Participation in trade unions or representation by regional worker representatives can provide this voice. It should be noted here that effort must be made to specifically include female workers who tend to have the least control over their work and even fewer opportunities for input into decisions than men in the workplace. This is all the more important in developing countries like India, all the more important if your workplace is in a tribal region, all the more important if your workplace is in a backward region of the country or poor region of the country, not economically developed. Ensure that women are made part of the process of worker engagement. Unions also should have substantive presence, a real presence of female workers. You are seeing a chessboard here. In cultures where women are not encouraged to or even allowed to speak in front of men, it will be important to hold women-only focus groups to ensure input from them and to reflect their perspectives in the data. Very often, women do not speak in the presence of men. So you have to conduct focus group, that is discussion, listening exercise, where only females are present, and they discuss a particular topic, and you get a new insight, new way to solve problems which seems insoluble, and you find a magic solution coming up because you decided to listen to people who happen to be females who were suppressed not to be speaking in the presence of men. So, to further the evidence, here I am showing the wellness wheel, and at the top you find occupational wellness, and since morning number of success examples have been shown where occupational wellness has been brought out through spiritual means, intellectual means, physical means, emotional means, environmental means, social means also. So when you want occupational wellness to come, do not only focus on occupational wellness, also consider spiritual wellness, intellectual wellness, physical wellness, emotional wellness, environmental wellness, and social wellness. Even in supposedly advanced Western cultures, often women hold more subordinate jobs than men. I am saying this even in Scandinavia I have seen, which are considered a few of the best advanced countries in women empowerment. The Queen, the Prime Minister, the President, all are females. Even in those countries, there are organizations where women hold more subordinate jobs than men and may simply feel uncomfortable speaking their thoughts in a mixed audience. I've actually seen the difference when all females are present, their views, and I've seen the same woman speaking differently when some men are present. Do you agree with me? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Right. And I'm happy at this point of time, in this auditorium, there are more women than men. And that supports my scientific evidence that is available. That change, if at all, is to be brought out without engaging women, 50% of the population. You cannot bring any sustainable change. This principle of worker involvement underlies the internal responsibility system that forms the basis for health and safety legislation in place in most jurisdictions in Canada, Europe, and Australia. India still has to make this health and safety legislation where gender is treated in a positive manner. This usually takes the form of a legislative requirement for a joint labour management health and safety committee within an enterprise with a mandate to make recommendations to the senior management of the enterprise related to any health, safety and well-being concerns in the workplace. There is no legislative requirement till date today in India where health and safety committee for every enterprise is stipulated by law. Shifting the responsibility for health and safety to everyone in the workplace, including workers, and away from a total reliance on external government enforcement has been found to be highly effective in reducing workplace injuries and illness. Such a strong evidence wherever workplace safety and health responsibility has been shifted through the workers, then through the legislation by law. If the organization does it itself on a voluntary basis, injuries and illnesses have come down drastically compared to an organization where the law only stipulated and it was shown to be implemented. In addition, this involvement will ensure that the specific needs and requirements of the local culture and conditions are incorporated into the health and safety activities in the workplace, because then it becomes a culture. There is a quotation on the right by a doctor in South Africa who says there obviously has to be a culture in the workplace that must involve management, the workers' trade unions, the line managers, the individual workers. It has to involve the whole enterprise. You also need to look at the general social services that are in the region of the enterprise. And Human Resources Department role to implement employee wellness program cannot remain isolated from the culture, the value system, the ethics of the workers. And without workers' engagement, involvement and leadership engagement, you should never think of starting a workplace wellness program. One of the strongest evidence that is available, even if the leadership is engaged, without worker involvement, you will never achieve a true wellness change at the workplace. You cannot do it. There are a number of examples across countries, in developed as well as developing countries in the world. I've again shown you on the left bottom the dimensions of well-being. People tend to feel only physical well-being is important. It is not so. Your emotional well-being, your financial well-being, your social well-being, your occupational well-being, your purpose well-being, your intellectual well-being, and your environmental well-being together, the 8 dimensions of well-being should be understood by each person in your organization, not only the leadership. So these 8 dimensions have to be understood, and only then you will find ways to implement that kind of well-being. These are the references, 4 in this slide, 4 in the next slide. All the statements I have made has come to be through a large body of research and published in peer-reviewed journals and books, and they are available in public domain. So it is not my view I am sharing through this oration. This is a distilled view of a large body of research in the field of occupational health and well-being. But I, in the end, would like to thank you for the audience, for your generosity, because you all have given attention to what I was talking about, and attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. Thank you.